Welcome to the Middle School Cafe podcast, where we're serving up fresh strategies and solutions for ELA teachers just like you. Join us as we explore proven methods to bridge the achievement gap and help every student reach their full potential. Whether you're a veteran teacher or just starting out, grab a cup of coffee and a notepad and let's get started. Here's your host, Carolyn Wall.
Welcome, everyone, to the Middle School Cafe podcast. I'm so glad you've joined me today. As teachers, we all know how quickly the school day fills with distractions, and our students feel it too. Stamina is tough for middle schoolers right now. There's so much competing for their attention. Phones, games, friends, and for some, just the realities of life outside of school. Whether it's reading, writing, or simply staying focused, many students struggle to give their full attention for more than a few minutes at a time. I see it in my own classroom. Students shifting in their seats, checking the clock, or losing focus before we've really even gotten started. And when it comes to independent reading, those challenges become even more obvious. We know that reading every day is important for growth, but telling students to sit quietly with a book for 20 minutes can feel like setting some of them up for failure. That's where reading sprints can help. They create a bridge between where students are now and where we want them to be. Instead of overwhelming students with a long block of silent reading, sprints give them a small, manageable way to practice focus. They help reluctant readers experience success, and they give all students a way to build endurance gradually over time. Building stamina isn't only about reading novels. The same focus helps students when they're writing an essay, taking a test, or even just listening carefully during a lesson. Practicing with short bursts of reading transfers into other areas where attention and persistence matter. So today, I want to talk about how reading sprints work, how you can use them in your classroom, and why they're such a powerful tool for helping students grow as readers. If you've ever asked your students to read silently for 20 minutes, you know the reactions you'll get. Some students dive right in, lose themselves in a book, and enjoy every second. But others, especially struggling or reluctant readers, look at you like you've just asked them to run a marathon without any training. Their eyes glaze over, they shift in their chairs, they start flipping pages, or they don't even bother opening the book. We've all seen it happen. Think of sprints like interval training for readers. Instead of a long stretch of reading that feels overwhelming, you're breaking it into a quick, focused burst. 3 to 5 minutes feels doable, even for the student who hasn't finished a book in years. It removes that mental block of, I can't do this for that long. What often happens is that students realize they really can stay with a book for a few minutes. Once they've done it successfully, it's easier to try again the next day, and then for a little longer the week after. That small success builds momentum, and before long, students who used to resist reading time are stretching their focus without even realizing it. And just like athletes train in intervals, readers can stretch their stamina with repetition. Start small, practice often, and gradually lengthen the time. In the beginning, my classes might only read for 5 minutes. That's it. Just 5 minutes of focus. But after a few weeks of consistent practice, we're up to 10, 12, sometimes 15 minutes, and students hardly notice the increase. They've built the muscle of attention without even realizing it. It's not always a straight road. Sometimes you have to step back and decrease the time for a few days before you can jump ahead, but practice and consistency work. When students see that they've gone from 3 minutes to 6 and then to 10, it gives them a sense of accomplishment. They may not notice it day to day, but when you point it out, it reinforces that their effort is paying off. Reading sprints aren't about how many pages students finish. It's about quality over quantity. I always build in a short reflection or quick partner talk afterward. That way students know they'll be asked to share something from their reading. It could be one interesting detail, a favorite line, or even just a prediction about what might happen next. That small accountability piece makes sure the sprint is about actual engagement, not just sitting with a book open. What I love about sprints is that students aren't racing through pages. They're actually paying attention. I've seen students who only got through 2 paragraphs in a sprint, but they could tell me about a metaphor they noticed or how they connected to a character. For a reluctant reader, that's a huge win. Another reason sprints work so well is that they're low pressure. Longer reading blocks can feel like a test of willpower. For some students, it becomes a countdown to when they can finally close the book. Reading sprints reframe it as practice, not performance. Students know it will be short, and that makes them more willing to give full effort. A simple timer on the board can make it even easier. They can see exactly how much time is left, and that makes the sprint feel manageable instead of overwhelming. That visible countdown can be a motivator rather than a stressor. It's like saying, we're all in this together for 3 minutes. So, how do you actually put reading sprints into practice? Let me give you a few variations you can try in your classroom. One way is to use them as a warm up. Begin class with a 3 to 5 minute sprint. Everyone reads silently, and then they jot a quick thought or turn to a partner to share something they noticed. It's a calm, focused way to start the day, and it builds that routine of daily reading. Another option is what I like to call sprint and share. After a 5 minute sprint, give students a minute or two to turn to a neighbor and talk about what they just read. This works especially well for building community because students start hearing about different books, and it creates a buzz around reading. You can also use targeted sprints during longer independent reading blocks. Pause and say, okay, for the next 3 minutes, look specifically for how the author develops the setting, or notice your character's motivation in this section. This gives the sprint a clear purpose and helps students practice reading with intention. One of my favorites is genre sprints. Provide 2 or 3 short excerpts from different genres, maybe a mystery, a historical fiction passage, and a science article. Students sprint read each one for a couple minutes and then talk about which style pulled them in the most. It's a great way to expose students to new genres without requiring them to commit to a whole book. Genre sprints can also help with book choice. If students aren't sure what to read next, these quick previews expose them to styles or authors they might not have picked up on their own. It takes away some of the guesswork of choosing a book. And if your students like a challenge, try class stamina mode. Set a timer and see how long the whole group can stay engaged without interruption. Keep track of class records and celebrate milestones. This turns stamina into a team goal rather than an individual struggle, and the competitive element can be really motivating. Sometimes it can be fun to have competitions between classes. Of course, like any strategy, reading sprints come with obstacles. The most common one is student restlessness. And honestly, that's normal. I always compare it to training for a sport. Nobody runs their best mile the first time out. It takes practice, and students need to know it's okay to start small. Another issue you'll see is fake reading, students flipping pages or staring at the same line without really engaging. This is where your quick reflections or partner shares make a difference. Even if it's just jotting a sticky note with one interesting word, it keeps the focus real. And I think it's important to name that fake reading isn't always about laziness. Sometimes it's a lack of skill, or students don't yet see themselves as readers. Sprints give them a safe way to practice without the weight of, I have to read this whole chapter. Sometimes the hardest part is just building consistency. If you only try sprints once, it won't stick. They need to be a regular routine, whether that's daily or a couple times a week. The more predictable it becomes, the smoother it runs. Once your students are comfortable with sprints, you can extend them in lots of creative ways. They're perfect after long weekends or holiday breaks when attention spans are short. They're also helpful before testing season when students need to practice staying focused on longer passages. You can even build them into a class challenge, like, this month we're going to sprint our way to 100 minutes of focused reading. As you head into this week, consider starting with just one reading sprint. Keep it simple, 3 to 5 minutes with a quick share afterward. Pay attention to how your students respond, especially the ones who usually resist reading time. You might be surprised by how a small change can open the door to real growth in stamina and confidence. The truth is, attention spans are short, and stamina is something we all have to keep working on with our students. It's not a quick fix, it's a process. Reading sprints are just one tool that can help us move in the right direction. If you're looking for more ideas on helping students stretch their stamina, go back and listen to episode 57, where I shared additional strategies you can use to help your student increase their stamina for reading. And don't forget to check out the show notes for links to more resources, past episodes, and blog posts to support you as you keep building a culture of reading. Thanks for spending some of your time with me today. I know you have a lot on your plate and plenty of podcast options, so I appreciate you choosing to listen in. If this episode was helpful, share it with your teacher bestie or a colleague who might benefit from trying reading sprints in their classroom. Until next time. Thanks for joining me today. As a reminder, a new episode drops every first and third Tuesday, so be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Be sure to visit middleschoolcafe.com to find links to everything mentioned in today's show. Until next time.